Welcome to the Reclaim Leader podcast. I'm Jason Tucker.
And I'm Jesse Skiffington.
We're two pastors in the trenches who are passionate about church health for greater gospel impact.
We share the ups and downs of ministry, strategies that worked for us,
and some that didn't.
Best practices and practical tools for church leadership.
The goal, to help all of our churches flourish. Let's get started. See another sunrise, sing a little song. Hey everyone, welcome to the Reclaim Leader podcast. If you are listening in real time, Pastor, what are you doing listening today? It is Christmas Eve, or yeah, it is Christmas Eve. No, Christmas Adam, as we say around here, the day before Christmas Eve. So, okay, you could go ahead and listen to us then. No, I mean, man, it is we're recording this early because, you know, we're pastors too, and it's 1,000 miles an hour to the finish line here. Yep. For Christmas. But I thought it'd be great for us to just do this episode, and then we'll take next week off, New Year's week off, and then we'll come back the first Tuesday of 2026. How's that sound, Jesse?
It sounds good to me, Jason. And yeah, it's funny how you kind of get to a point in your Christmas preparation, hopefully, where you can start to enjoy the season. And so this is the first year where I had a guest preach in December. So one of our staff, but typically I would preach every Sunday and do Christmas Eve. And this year I was like, I'm giving one of those Sundays away so that I can prepare for Christmas Eve. I can do all that and hopefully get to enjoy Christmas a little bit more because I'm not just sprinting in every direction. And so far that's more or less holding to be true. But, there's always something to get done. But I hope as you're listening to this, all the message is ready. You're just ready to go, and you can just, find a way to enjoy and celebrate the season too. And remember the heart of the Christmas story, that God loves you and God sent his son for you, and that we, Jason, you and I, and as pastors, that we could experience some of that joy and peace in our hearts and lives too.
Yeah, I love it. And it's funny, we didn't even talk about this. I did the same thing. So this last Sunday I had, our associate preached, and usually again, it's like, we're in December, I'm doing all the things because I feel this pressure, like I'm supposed to or have to. And I got to tell you, not having to prep a sermon and to use that time for other things was just wonderful. Although when Sunday came around, I'm like fit to be tied when I'm not preaching. But here's what I'm thinking. I'm thinking that's a good thing because I'm supposed to miss it, right?
Well, you're good at it and you love it, and it's part of why you do what you do. And so it's like, that's a good sign that you're not like, oh, good, I don't have to do it this way.
Yeah. But it was really nice not having to prep a sermon.
Yeah. Well, and you see lots of guests coming in, and sort of there is something important about people getting to hear from the person who speaks the most often and experience that and all that. And I had one of those email messages come in a couple weeks ago. The question was basically, we have people coming into town. Can you tell us the Sundays that you will not be preaching? And are there any of those through the end of the year? And I'm like, I didn't even want to respond, but I get it at the same time, right? If you're going to invite someone, you want them to have an experience of what typically happens or something like that. So
that reminds me, Karen and I we're going down to Atlanta. We had this quick trip to Atlanta, and we're going to stop by and go to North Point and hear Andy Stanley preach, right? Because she had never heard him, like live or whatever. I'm like, oh, let's go check. It'd be fun. And we get there, and it was Clay Scroggins preaching, and the first thing out of his mouth. So I guess Andy Stanley had lost his voice or something, and so he gets up there and he goes, I understand. You take a look at me, and it's like you went to go see your doctor, and some other doctor came out and said, I'm sorry, your doctor's not here, but you can talk to me. He goes, you don't want to do that. He goes, I know you don't want me here, but this is where we are. It was very funny. It was very disarming. And
good. Well, I think the point of this whole conversation was hopefully as pastors, we're finding some margin, even in the midst of the craziness, right?
Exactly. Well, a few thoughts as we go into 2026, we're going to get to in a minute, but I just wanted to take a quick look back. I think, Jesse, one of the things that I need to be better at is taking a look back and just enjoying the ride a little bit and thinking about where we've been here in 2025. So I just went back and I was thinking about some episodes that really stood out to me. And if you're new to the podcast, first of all, welcome. And maybe you missed some of these, you want to go back and listen. So these are in no particular order. except for the one that was the most listened to.
Mm.
One of the episodes that I really liked, and a lot of people tuned into, was episode 400. That was Michael Graham, Hope on the Other Side of De-Churching.
Yeah.
Michael Graham and Jim Davis wrote The Great De-Churching along with Ryan Burge. And it's such a fantastic resource. And I just thought that whole conversation with Michael was, I don't know, it was really encouraging and optimistic. And one of the things was like, getting people to come back and to re-engage in church is not as mysterious or complicated as we like to think it is.
Yeah.
And one of the things from that book was the number one reason people stopped going to church because they moved.
Yeah.
Mundane
reasons, right?
Yeah. I mean, and it's just not what you think.
Yeah.
Oh, this person's mad. This person left. This person has all these things. Not necessarily. And so anyway, a lot of people were really encouraged by that conversation.
Yeah, I think it was reassuring in a lot of ways. It wasn't just your bad sermon or because you ignored them on a Sunday. I mean, we put ourselves at the center of the story probably too often anyway. People think about us a lot less than we think they think about us.
True.
I mean, that's kind of the reality of it. But it was encouraging to hear that there are reasons why people drifted away from church or their attendance kind of maybe declined and then they drifted away. And I haven't used that same language that we used in that conversation that day of just many people are one conversation away from coming back to church.
Yeah.
And I've used that with our leadership team here and even our congregation just to say, be inviters, or at least be people who talk about your experience of church and why it matters to you, because you never know. There might be someone who just got out of the habit or had some life change that caused them to lean out and they need an excuse to come back. So I'm glad that we picked this one. I'm so glad that we got to have that conversation.
Yeah, me too. Another one that stood out was one we did right after, was episode 401. We talked with Allison Stump, who is a regional director of athletes in our varsity, talking about the next generation and what she's seeing on college campuses, specifically Monmouth University, which is right kind of in our backyard. And Allison, we support Allison and her work there. And just the incredible hope in Gen Z that we hear about anecdotally, we maybe read about, but it's actually, she's witnessing this in real time. And she'd be the first to tell you that the success and growth of InterVarsity at Monmouth University, for example, is a direct result of students really going viral with their faith. I mean, she'll be the first to tell you, like, it's not because of my leadership, like I'm doing my part, but it's like these students are on fire for Jesus and it's attracting other students, and members of the football team getting baptized in these big buckets, with their legs sticking out. I mean, it's just really wonderful. And that, again, there's something about what's going on with the next generation that I'm just like, how do I help it happen?
Yeah. Yeah. And there is something going on, right? I mean, you see it with your kids and I see it with mine, and we see it in our youth environments and young adults that are showing up, and we're like, what are you doing here? Like, how are we going to help you disciple you and help you to disciple your own generation? And so it is exciting to be a part of that. And I think it's funny, my wife, Callie, and we're celebrating our 20th anniversary here. I don't know, how many are you and Karen? I can't remember.
25 this summer.
That's right. Yeah. Big one for you guys this summer. But kind of, I was looking through some of the pictures and I'm like, I'm not the face of the future anymore, man. It's like, I once was young, but now I'm not, it's like, so anyway, but how can we support and encourage and kind of be wind in the sails of whatever God is doing in that generation, be a part of it through equipping or encouraging or creating kind of environments for those things to happen, and let those young people loose and see what the Holy Spirit does. So I'm excited about it too, Jason. And I think having worked in that environment with college students, it like fills my heart with hope and joy. I mean, it's just exciting to hear that there seems to be a movement that's not just Monmouth. It seems to be this broader thing that's happening in our younger generation. So really awesome to hear that conversation and have an example, really clear-cut stories that were pointing to that reality.
Yeah. And then the third one that I thought of was my friend Randy Gallmer. This was episode 394. He's the pastor of Pocono Lake Bible Church, and he shared a story with us. Yeah. And I think every small church pastor needs to hear this episode, because Randy didn't just have a small church. He had a micro church. He had,
Yeah.
I mean, he could count on one hand the number of people there.
Mm.
And now they're worshiping over 100.
Mhm.
And it's not that Randy's great and he's a fantastic leader, but he's not like a 22-year-old with skinny jeans. He's not like a Theo bro, like
Yeah.
leading. He's a regular guy in a place that is very in the middle of nowhere,
Mhm.
and has grown his church like 100 times over, pretty much, just by taking small, faithful steps. And
Yeah.
I'm like,
There's
it's
a
a lesson
lot of
for all of
trust.
us, but it's so encouraging, I know, to those who are pastors of small churches.
Yeah, there was, and what I heard in that conversation, a lot of listening, a lot of trusting. I mean,
Yeah.
just there's a boldness there, or a willingness to go, and I'm like, wow, that's incredible. And just reflecting, I think, in our own lives and leadership, how are we doing at listening well for the Spirit to guide us, and to trust enough to take a step?
Yeah.
I think that sometimes we forget that joyful part of just seeing God do something amazing that we had no idea was coming. But there was also that story of that long faithfulness there too. So just really good stuff.
Yeah. So, yeah, if maybe you got a little extra time between Christmas and New Year, and if you want to go back and take a listen to some of these, I actually may do the same, which is sort of weird. But
Yeah.
I don't know. I was so encouraged by those conversations, and then I just thought I'd mention, looking back, I was just curious, what was the most listened to episode in 2025, and it wasn't what I thought it would be. It was episode 383, 5 Moves to Cultivate a Healthy Elder Board.
Yes. Yeah.
That actually was by far the most listened to podcast episode.
Yeah. It tracks.
That is.
Yeah, it tracks. I think that's one of the challenges that we face as pastors, is wanting to do a good job on so many different fronts in the life of the church, and sometimes equipping our elders, or in the Presbyterian model, having a really effective, healthy session that's made up of pastors and elders, doing all that really well. We know that would come with great benefits, but to get there can be elusive or challenging. So I think it's a conversation we ought to explore some more. And there's been some things we've been working really hard on, including looking at the size of our session, and what are the things we're doing to create a leadership pipeline, or some training ahead of their time on session, so that we kind of are getting to a healthy spiritual place before we pick up the phone and ask the nominating team, asks them, are you willing to serve? And so I think it is an important conversation. And so it's not surprising. It's surprising maybe that it was a landslide winner.
Yeah.
When we're talking about innovation and de-churching, and we were talking about all kinds of other cool topics. So yeah.
Yeah. So I don't know. I thought it was cool to just sort of look back at 2025. But as we start to go forward into 2026, I just have a couple of end of year thoughts. And one of them was based on a devotional that the president of Belmont University, I got to hear him. I was at a gathering of pastors in Nashville a few weeks ago. And he was invited. I'm sorry, I'm just forgetting his name offhand. But he gave this devotional that I thought was great. He was reading Romans 8, and one of the translations he had read this in verse 19. Yes, creation itself is on tiptoe with expectation, eagerly awaiting the moment when God's children will be revealed. I loved that phrase, on tiptoe, because when you're on your tiptoes, you are ready for movement. You're ready for action. And his devotional was all about that, the difference between being on our heels and being on tiptoe. And I've been thinking about it ever since. What does that look like in this next season of ministry, in this next year, for us as a church to be on tiptoe, eagerly expecting what God is going to do? I find that so much more compelling than the usual default of reacting to the world around us.
And you're an offensive lineman, so you know why this is so important.
That's right. We got to
you're
push
knocked
people
on
all
your
the way.
heels, you're going to get knocked on your rear end, right? If you're on your toes, you can move and do the things you need to do. I think it's just that's a really powerful image. And anybody that's ever done sports of any kind, you go, oh, I see the triple threat in basketball. Get ready to move. Don't be playing on your heels. Get in a good position to succeed. And I like that. I immediately, when as pastors, when your mind starts racing towards other related illustrations, that someone got a good one, and
Yeah.
you're like, I'm gonna remember that one. But
Yeah.
yeah, there's sort of an eagerness there that like you said, like what are we anticipating, and are we ready to be a part of it and to
Yeah.
move in the direction the Spirit leads and to really go. So I like that. I think it's a great heart to bring into the new year, Jason. Getting on
Yeah.
tip, getting ready.
Yeah. And listen, I think pastors, if you're wondering what you're going to do this year, let me just encourage you, take a swing at whatever that is.
Hmm.
Take a swing, because I don't know. Again, I say this all the time. I feel like a broken record, but I can't help it. I feel like this is the biggest opportunity in ministry, in culture, that I've ever experienced when in ministry. I've never seen a culture so teed up to receive Jesus or hungry to receive Jesus, but simply need people to point to Jesus.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know, this whole thing on Tiptoe, I'm excited about it, and I also feel like I'm like ready to run through a wall. So I think churches, we have a golden opportunity in front of us. And so what might this look like?
Hmm.
I was thinking about just how do we land this a little bit more practically. I just have three things. One, and we've talked about all three of these things this year. But number one is, one way that you could be on tiptoe is start asking yourself, how do we proactively start building cultural bridges to the generations around us?
Mm-hmm.
Generational bridges. In other words, sort of like Wycliffe Bible translators. How am I building a communication bridge so I can bring the gospel to it?
Mm-hmm.
So how am I doing that generationally in my church and outside the walls of my church? How am I thinking about that in terms of inviting people to experience Jesus in one way or another, or to engage in the life of the church? I think that is a very easy way to get started. The work's not easy, but it's an easy framework to start thinking about, okay, what bridge are we building to the 7 living generations, and how are we going to do that well? And maybe you can't focus on all 7 at once, but I think
Mm-hmm.
it's a good start of just, how are we going to be on tiptoe? We're going to think about reaching these different generational cultures
Mm-hmm.
around us.
Yeah, and I think there's a unique opportunity, I imagine, in a lot of our churches to be intergenerational in that. We're focusing on senior adults maybe, but how do we mobilize them to serve instead of just what can we do to help them in their later years, or how do we reach that group of adults now that are empty nesters and they're like, well, we're going to have a lot of fun now, I think, and we're going to have some of our most satisfying years in life, but we also want to continue to be a part of what God's doing or grow in our faith. And so I think what you're saying is, how do we meet each generation, kind of where they are, what their needs are, their pain points, but also their gifts and their what they bring uniquely and all that. So I love it. What are some of the kinds of things you guys are doing to build those bridges?
Yeah, so I'll just use the one example of the let's call them middle-aged Gen Zers, in the sense that, like, they're not the oldest Gen Zers and they're not the youngest. They're somewhere in the middle. And these are the college students or just out of college young adults.
Yeah.
And for them, we discovered, and we only discovered by having conversations with them, what they care about most is community.
Mm-hmm.
They want to connect. And that led us to, we actually hired someone who grew up in the church, who she just graduated college at Messiah University, and had some bandwidth to work for us part-time. We didn't know how we're going to afford it, or what. We didn't have a position description. We're just like, we need to have, if we're trying to reach young adults, we need a young adult to help us do that.
That's right.
Because we don't know what we're doing.
Yeah.
And she just started by meeting people for coffee and having a bunch of conversations. And all the feedback was, they just want to hang out. And she was very polite, but she was very funny about it. She's like, every time she started talking about doing an event, our leadership team started turning it into like some big thing. And she's like, you don't understand. You're doing too much.
Do less.
But
do
like
less.
that's not what they want.
Wow.
They literally want to sit around and have coffee and read the Bible and just hang out.
Yeah.
And so we said, okay, well, tell us what you need. Tell us what to do. And now what's fascinating is we have young adults who found that group online who don't go to the church and they just want a community. And some of them have sort of maybe a relationship with Jesus, maybe not, but they like the idea of community. And that only happens when you start listening, because we could have railroaded this young woman who's working for us, and we could have decided, no, we're gonna do it our way and make it the way that we envision it, and that would have been a miss. So I think what that showed us, it just reinforced that the people you're trying to reach, you need to be in dialogue with them and to actually listen to what their hopes, pain points, everything else are.
Yeah. And yeah, we've been having a lot of conversations about next gen, and especially right out of high school into college years and those early formative young adult years. And, going, is it right to focus like on a demographic and be like, you're our mission? And I'm like, well, that's not what we're saying here. We're not being weird. It's like, how do we respond to this group that really needs that gift of community and are hungry for it? And what's that going to look like? Because church is one of those unique things where we have the opportunity to gather people together just because it's what we do. And so whatever that the actual form of that takes, like, there's a reason that we can create community and create an environment, and it's sort of arbitrary and it's awesome. So we're uniquely positioned, I think, as churches to do some of these things. And people go, oh yeah, it's a church. They get together, right? Whether it's at the church or somewhere else or whatever, but community is baked into our identity as churches. So I like it.
And when I think about generations, I think, okay, let's say that you were teaching a history class on World War II, and you had a 4th grade class and you had a 10th grade class. Would you teach them exactly the same? No. Because they're different generationally. You would use different language. You would talk about different things. I mean, that's what we're talking about. We're talking about how do we bring the gospel to bear in a way that they understand.
I love it. Good stuff, Jason.
All right. Second thing was just that churches, we need to think entrepreneurially. That's a tough word. And it's just we need to risk and trust. That's what we're talking about with John Tarek the last couple episodes. It's about risking and trusting. We've got to do that. We've got to take some chances. It is worth the risk, in my opinion. It's not a blind risk. It's a calculated risk, but we've got to decide, hey, we're going to spend some money. And I know things are tight, but we got to try. We got to do something. Otherwise, this ship is going nowhere. It's just going to stay tied to the dock. So I really think all of our churches need to be thinking about, okay, what is it? What's the thing or 2 or 3 that we're going to take a risk on this year in 2026? And that should be a source of incredible excitement. I know it's scary too, because we get into scarcity mindset, which I think is a problem in and of itself. But come on, let's take some chance. I mean, there's too much at stake not to take a chance. So anyway, I think churches, we need to be thinking that way.
Well, yeah. So I was just thinking, what are some of the things that get in the way of taking chances? And I think sometimes we just need to give ourselves permission to do it.
Yeah.
It's like, as a leadership team, maybe even ask this with your session, or your board or whatever, in January. Be like, what are some things that we could do, risks we could take this year, and what gets in the way of our doing that? And just see what people say. Maybe they're like, I didn't know we could do that. Well, yeah, you can. Let's go for it. So who knows what comes up in those conversations, but maybe even just asking the question, why aren't we risking? Might generate a lot of good conversation that could lead to some forward movement. So that innovative entrepreneurial spirit, it's just, once you kind of take that step, that sort of has this momentum thing that comes with it. It's exciting, and people start coming up with all kinds of ideas, and you got to steer the fire hose rather than trying to drag people along. Man, that's what you want to get, right?
Exactly right. And then lastly, these are actually the 4 areas that I focus on in my book, because I think these are 4 areas that if you don't know where to start, one of these 4 is probably a great place.
Yeah.
And that is next gen, worship, discipleship, and evangelism. I don't think you go wrong focusing on any one of those 4 things as a place to start. If you're looking at, hey, how are we going to be on tiptoe with expectation, awaiting the moment when God's children will be revealed? Well, we're going to focus on these areas. How do we engage better? How do we reach better? How are we utilizing and understanding the power of these four things in the life of the church? So, I don't think we need to unpack them all, but I just think these are areas that we talk about a lot, because I think these are four areas that are really good places to start.
When are we going to have you on as a guest to talk?
I know, right?
We should.
But anyway, these areas, I think.
No, I think so. You make progress. Imagine, a year from now, you've made progress, significant progress in one of those areas, or at least taking the time to really unpack what you're doing and what's working and what's not. And I mean, that would be a game changer in a lot of ways if you get some progress on any of those fronts. So I think you've identified four really crucial areas to focus on. So these are encouraging, Jason. I've kind of already got the wheels turning a little bit, and this is that time of year where we're celebrating, but as leaders, we can't help but start looking into the next year. Where are we going? What am I going to be preaching on? What should we be doing? And just praying for you, Jason, for me, for our listeners, that God would give us that sort of that resolve or that resiliency to dream big for the coming year, and to feel renewed and just experience his peace and presence right now that carries us into 2026 with that focus that we need to lead well and to help our churches thrive.
Yeah, well said. Well, everyone, thanks so much for listening this year. It's been another great year, Jesse. I'm just always counting my blessings that we get to do this, and for all of our listeners who've engaged with us or are listening and who've sent us email. I mean, you can reach out to us anytime, Jason or Jesse at reclaimleader.com. And if you ever have things that, hey, can you guys help? We'll always try to help however we can, if it's possible. Although a lot of times it's like, I don't know, we're trying to figure that out too.
You tell us, right? Yeah,
that's right. But anyway, thanks so much. Thanks, Jesse, for another great year of friendship and podcasting and all that stuff. So
good things, my friend.
All right, everyone. Hey, for the last time in 2025, we'll say it, and maybe you want to say it with me. Ministry is hard. It is so much better when we do it together. Take care, everyone.